Hey YouTube, good morning. We got a surprise update last night at about 4:25 Eastern time is when I got the email that it was coming to my car, and I think the download probably preceded that. And this is the download of FSDBeta 10.0.1, and they just incremented 24.16. We were on 24.15 before, so one increment on the build number. Obviously, this is not 10.1, this is 10.0.1, so Elon tweeting about 10.1 having the full stack and the button and the things like that are not in this build, to my knowledge. So it's kind of an incremental bug fix. The release notes I posted on Twitter this morning, but I'll just put it here on the video for those that are interested. It's just bug fixes, nothing new was included in the actual images. It's got the screens, it's got the camera, so full self-driving. You got the build number up here, 10.0.1. It's got the standard full self-driving. It's got driving visualization improvements, and then the cabin camera. Those three screens were there previously. But obviously, since we're on this 24 build, we have all of the features that are part of 24, which was Disney Plus, car wash mode, auto mirror, auto dim, dash cam improvements, range display. That's a little nice one. If you hadn't done that yet, you just tap it and it switches between percent and miles. Connected to Wi-Fi, and then the new language support. That's with all the 24 stuff in the production build. So I'm just going to do my typical first impressions video here. I'm not going to do anything unprotected left in this video other than perhaps, just the initial one getting out of here. We'll just kind of have a little conversation and see how it goes. I've got the 360 cam running, and for those of you yesterday that saw me not being able to get this wide, what it was I needed to swipe that up. That is a new bug in the previous build. I guess I could test it to see if it stays down, but that's what that was about. So anyway, we're going to Memorial Park. Let's see what we get out of this intersection. I'm going to let this car that's approaching from the front go ahead and pass. There's another one from the left. That way I'm not nudged out at the intersection quicker than I want to go. I got pedestrian. Any dogs? No, I didn't see the dog and the pedestrian. Just the pedestrian. All right, and this car is actually waiting on me because of that pedestrian. And away we go. It didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe up here. Yeah, that's what it was. That needs to be fixed. All right, so we're doing basically a right turn at my unprotected left intersection here. Feels like the same behavior at the stop line. I got really kind of nervous with all this traffic. When it sees them, it stops, even though it's definitely not far enough out to see to the left yet. For those of you that know my tree markings that I had on the drone, I can only see about just at the third tree, so I'm not quite at 80 meters downrange. Boy, it's being very hesitant. Okay, now it's creeping. Okay, it needs to stop. This is good. It's being careful. It's just kind of nudging itself out. I'm leaning all the way forward right now at the steering wheel, and boy, this is going to be a tough one. Okay, there's a gap coming actually, so let's see if it chooses this gap. Okay, it can go right now if it stays in the right lane. Nice. Thumbs up. That was good. Obviously on a busy morning, you can see here I am at 7:45 on a Friday morning, so this is a little bit of a COVID rush hour. The traffic will kind of be in big slugs of a lot of traffic based on the stoplights, about a mile down the road. But that was good. It didn't have to cross traffic, but getting in the right lane ought to be a safer maneuver. And if the intersection allows it with the obstructions that are present, the creeping action can definitely work as long as it doesn't creep too far into the traffic. But I think that I'm seeing for the first time some of the things that I know a lot of the beta testers have been commenting on for the past week. that I haven't had the chance to drive with a lot, with the respect to the lines and the way the actual markings are not quite fuzzy like they were in the 9.2 builds. Quite a bit of traffic up here, you can see. So the car is pretty much going to be stuck in its lane. More than likely, for some of these sections, I'll speed up the film. Go ahead and do a top-down view there. A lot of SUVs rendered here, but that's pretty much what they are. Everybody's got an SUV these days. So let's talk about a few more things that happened this morning. So Elon tweeted about 10.1 coming a week from tonight at midnight. So they got one more week, so that'll be great. We get another build, 10.1. Be very exciting if the full stack is actually in that build. I think that'll be, you know, a huge improvement with the merging of autopilot. But probably the most important thing was the way he defined the FSD beta button, you know, the opt-in request button. So for the first time, we have a little bit of detail about what that means to request it. So I'm guessing in one of these pages, probably in the autopilot section, you know, somewhere in here where we've got all of these, you know, beta options, there's going to be a button over there to request it. That's what it sounds like. And it sounds like when you request it, there's going to be a request that goes back to the mothership, and they're going to analyze your data. Now, this is a little bit of a question. For 7 days, is it the next 7 days or the previous 7 days? We're not quite sure yet. Okay, this is for this route, for everyone that's familiar, where I get off of the road and go onto the side streets a little bit. Sorry for that sun. I can only imagine that's messing with the exposure. So the use of the Tesla insurance profiling or data capture is a very interesting way to execute this, and I think it's a great way to do it. There's no better way to make a decision on whether or not someone should have a beta version of software installed than using safety information. It'll also be interesting to see if they start using that safety information to retain people on beta. So if I start getting too many disconnects, could I get kicked out of beta? All right, I can tell you I cannot see that stoplight without putting my hand up. It's red, and I'm showing solid red here. So this is a great example of 100% in the sun, how these cameras are able to filter light out in order to see adequately. This is perfectly showing bright red controlling lights. All right, I just got a green, and shoot, it's not showing it. All right, I got honked at, guys, so I'm going. So I guess here I was saying that the reds were shown perfectly, but maybe it couldn't see the green arrow, which is a little less bright. Then I'm gonna go ahead and capture that. That's maybe the green arrow was too small in that bright sun to see. Interesting. I don't think I've had that exact use case before where the sun was able to mask direct vision of a light. But for me, my angle, and probably exact same for the angle of this forward-facing camera, that sun was right on it. It doesn't mean that I could see it a whole lot better, but I could kind of move my head around it and decipher it a little bit. Okay, back to our scenario a little bit, and we'll talk about the button some more. So we got our double stack lights here, and then the planner has us going straight, and we got our scenario. So the light's going to be red with a green arrow to the right. It has run this before, and it didn't run it today. It stopped too far back. I'm tapping the accelerator because I've got traffic behind me, and it needs to go all the way to the stop line. It needs to stop. Okay, so it ran the red light, but it ran the red light because I was trying to get up to the stop line. So did it try to run the red light because it thought I was overriding the stop? I'm not sure, because it definitely didn't give me the press accelerator to continue. So that's interesting. Does a user's intervention give it the authority to overwrite the red light? So I am in a flashing light school zone at the moment, which is a new unique test, and it was exceeding that flashing light speed limit. You can see the commanded speed is above. I'm gonna flash that one also because I don't think the autopilot team has a lot of that data with flashing school zones. Hopefully they got enough to see that. Okay, I'm gonna just, while we're on this road here, we got some flashing yellows coming up. I wanna wrap up the conversation about the beta button. So for everybody out there that is hoping on this 10.1 beta button, my advice is make sure you're driving safe now, because we don't know how they're gonna collect the data. I'm not saying anyone doesn't drive safe, I'm just saying make sure you're avoiding these flashing blue warnings. If you've got a camera up here, make sure your attentiveness is as good as it can be. Avoid navigator and autopilot lockouts on the highway, things like that. Just make your data as clean and as good as possible, because obviously they're going to be using safety metric information in order to measure this. I don't think you're going to have a 100% clean record, because that's almost impossible, as we all know, driving these cars. I just want to comment, it did both of those flashing yellows pretty good just then. It didn't do any unnecessary pauses. Okay. Change of subject here. So we're going to do a right turn here, and in the past it's kind of stayed in the left lane to make the right turn. I'm kind of hoping it's going to get over to the right a little bit here. Doesn't look like it's going to do that. It does have the blinker on, so I am telling the car behind me I am turning to the right. Okay, nice turn. With the exception, I want it to scoot over a little bit more to that right lane when there's room for two cars. That's a natural behavior there. All right. The next one is a four-way stop sign. I do have a lead car this time, so it may influence its behavior of doing a California roll, but let's see. All right, it went all the way to basically 0. All right, no traffic to interact with there, so it was just a nice, good four-way stop with a lead car. Another flashing yellow coming up. It's kind of obscured in the trees for the moment, and there it is. Didn't stop at all. I did get a flash of red in there though, so I still think there's a little bit of color identification going on there. I'm really thinking about that sun in the stoplight. If this was a robo-taxi today, and the car just sat there because it couldn't see, what would you expect the car to do? Would you definitely wouldn't want it to accidentally go when it was red. A little bit of an over-aggressive slowdown for that car turning off, but that was fine. We got the best cameras for that scenario. It just is obscured by the sun. I got honked at by the truck behind me, who could easily see I had the green arrow. I could see I had the green arrow, but I had to kind of use some duck and jive maneuvers with my head to see it. It'll be interesting to think that through. I mean, that's not anything a radar or LiDAR is going to fix. That has to be vision. Interesting thought. Got a emergency vehicle coming up here. Just a good opportunity to see that there is nothing new on emergency vehicles yet. It just mapped it as a truck. No lights. All right, we've got a green light going through an intersection that's protected. Nothing unusual here. Uh-oh, what's it doing? Okay. I don't know what it was doing there. I didn't disengage, but that was disengagement worthy, which is why I did a snapshot there. We were just going straight and went straight towards the median. It jumped out of the lane for no reason. It had the blinker on and the planner was all going straight. Not sure. Okay, we just got a yellow light waiting there. All right, so I've got the sun in my eyes again, but it's a little offset here. It's got both reds showing accurately. So now the sun's kind of here. I can see much more clearly, and there's a blue sky with clouds behind the light. I just got a green, but with a pedestrian in there. Check that out. Green with the pedestrian, waited on the pedestrian, now we're proceeding. So that was a great behavior there. And it didn't have any issues with the sun offset to the right. So to use that as a comparison on the one that it did have problems with, the sun was directly behind the stoplight. So complete exposure issues probably with the camera and its filtering. I really am hoping for a pedestrian crossing one of these crosswalks. I think it's going to stop for the pedestrian regardless of that sign that reminds the driver that you have to pause for them. So I don't know that that really matters. It feels like the car does a pretty good job observing pedestrians. All right, that was leg one. I'm going to go ahead and disengage there and get set up here for leg two. So, you know, it was good. It wasn't perfect. You know, it tried to run a red light when I tapped the accelerator to scoot up to the stop line. It could have interpreted that as an override confirmation intervention. It had a problem seeing directly into the sun for a green arrow. Obviously, green arrows produce a lot less light than a solid green, so maybe the arrow was the limiting factor there, not the stoplight in general. Had a pretty good reaction with a pedestrian crossing the crosswalk after the light went green, and it sat there and waited, which was good. All right, let me get set up for leg two, and we'll start over again. Okay, so it looks like that bug might have been fixed anyway. I just got to reroute here. Everything's lined up. I didn't have to swipe up on my route after I did it this time. It went to the full width. All right, this is that kind of funny angle. It's got a up and to the right and back into the left traffic it's got to watch. Okay, it's clear left, but not right. It needs to wait. Okay, I had to stop for that car. I was really hoping it was going to see it in time, but it didn't. So that scenario is very similar to the one that Kim Paquette had up in Newport, where the traffic is coming from a non-90 degree angle, and it's almost like it doesn't know how to treat it. I also have not had perfect scenarios at that intersection before with the traffic being timed where it needed to yield to them. I'm not sure about these offset angles, how the car thinks about it. It's something to continue to watch. A little bit of a brake tap there for that traffic coming out, but nothing unusual. Pedestrian here waiting. I don't know what I just got a warning for. I didn't see anything pop up. My hand's on the wheel. It needs to stop. What's it doing? Whoa, see that? That's craziness. It passed the stop line, and I don't know that it was stopping for that stoplight. I think it was stopping for that pedestrian it saw that happened to be crossing the street. Either way, it stopped, but it didn't stop where it was supposed to or when it was supposed to. This stoplight thing's concerning me a little bit, because if there's one thing that'll delay the release of FSDBeta, it's running stoplights, or inconsistently running them. I hope they can get that locked in. There's no reason they can't. It's been working very reliably before, so I'm not exactly sure what changed. Okay, the car has a plan to the right to go out to the highway. I'm going to disengage here and continue on straight for a bit. Got a cyclist here. I'm going to let it reroute. Unfortunately, I'm not getting the car's behavior around that cyclist because of the timing of the reroute, but okay. All right, back at our four-way stop. Whoa, what is it doing? All right, I'm disengaging there because it ran a stop sign, and I wanted both the disengagement and the snapshot there. Wow. Okay, good with the bad, good with the bad. Got a green light here, so it's an unprotected left with a green. Back to our flashing yellows. So this worked out how I had hoped. And the reason I wanted this to go back on this route versus jump out like I've done in the past is it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I believe that flashing yellow light school zone is still going to be flashing up here. Big truck coming out here, trash truck. Let's see how it reacts. Slowed down a little bit more, mostly for that truck, but that was good behavior. All right, so here we are. Let's see. Right now I've got I'm going to set my speed exactly to the speed limit, so I'm not over controlling it. This truck is going to end up forcing the speed for me, isn't he? Shucks. Well, what I've got here is I've got a flashing yellow speed constraint sign. I'm just going to tap the snapshot because I don't know if FSD team has that. I'm being constrained by this lead car. I have a feeling if he wasn't there, it would be going the full speed. I've never seen it honor a temporary speed indication change. But anyway, I got to show you guys that. And in traffic, it's behaving just as it should, but I don't think it's doing it because of the car. I think it's, and actually, I guess this would be an indication. If it was honoring that 15-mile-an-hour sign, that speed limit should change to 15. That's what I would expect. That way, as a driver, I can see what it's doing. It's still commanding 30, but constrained by the lead car. I may have to use this Memorial Park Drive at about this time of day, around 8 a.m. On a weekday, as a little bit better use case, because the traffic is definitely higher. Okay, smooth it out there. Okay, and this introduction of school zones, and hopefully I'll catch some school buses at some point. Okay, turning right here. No issues with there. Gonna have to yield on a car backing out. Looks like it did just fine. Okay, we are jumping back out to the highway here. This is an unprotected left. You've seen it before if you've watched these drives over and over. On 9.2, this is the intersection where it bailed out to the right and went to 0 miles an hour in the middle of the highway, yielding nicely to the pedestrian. So I don't really know what to expect here, other than on yesterday on 10.0, the unprotected lefts were better. It needs to cross 3 lanes of traffic. It needs to wait in the median or continue into the opposite side if it can find the gap. There is a street light about a block away that does create gaps that are sometimes very large. I do have a car behind me, so I can't wait forever here, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna do my normal, give it a chance and then go. All right, it's going for it. Oh my God, it's got a double gap, so it worked perfectly. Hey, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. Give the monitor a rep. So it was an easy scenario, but it did it in a timely manner, and that's all you could expect it. Crossing, I've got no complaints. It did what I would have done. I was given an opportunity, I crossed. Cannot complain. And I'm glad, and it didn't loop to the right more than anything. It saw the gap and went. I didn't even have to nudge it with the accelerator for the car behind me that time. All right, so here we are again with these lines that I was saying that are much more crisp, and other beta testers have commented on that. It's putting a lot of craziness in there as it's trying to render a solid line. I think I prefer fuzzy than jiggly solid lines. Fuzzy indicated the perhaps uncertainty that of the the probabilistic nature of what vision was showing it, instead of showing uncertainty with solid lines. Maybe they're switching to using 3D assets and overlaying them rather than the fuzzy edges there, and that's why we're seeing that. All right, it's changing lanes into the middle lane at an intersection where I was always kind of concerned it jumps over to the left on the previous build, but that time it kind of got into the middle lane. I think that's what's going on here. I think it's overlaying 3D assets rather than fuzzy lines like it did before, and it's just looking like jiggly straight lines when really it's overlaying straight lines in areas that it used to be mapping probabilities. Like this red is a probability, this yellow is a probability, this kind of edge up there is a probability. That should be able to be fixed easily. Interesting. Kind of a funny slowdown there, not sure why. Don't see anything around me to cause it. All right, let's see how it gets into this turn lane. Nice and smooth. Okay, now it's an unprotected green here. Definitely needs to wait. Okay, it aggressively went up to the line. It did stop at the line here, so now it's just an unprotected left with a green. Lots of traffic, so more than likely it's going to end up having to wait on the green light. So I'm actually almost at the end here, so let me just give a little bit of a summary. So 10.0.1 is out. It feels so far like 10.0. You know, I don't have a lot of comparison like some of the other beta testers do to the nuances of 10.0. I think it's really working better on these unprotected lefts on scenarios where it definitely has a gap. I'm going to need to do a lot more testing on that. Okay, it cannot go now, so I don't know what it's thinking. I do think there's some critical things it still needs to work on. Running red lights is not good. Obviously, it had a little bit of an issue with the sun on one of them. That's something we can look at closely. Maybe one of my cameras caught some pretty good angles and we can see. All right, there's a gap there if it's going to go, but it better go. It better go. It needs to go. Okay, I let it go because that is something I would have done, but I let it. I trusted it a little bit more than I would have ever done that before. But that was successful. It did it. It used aggressiveness. I'm giving the car credit where credit is due here. What a great way to finish the drive. You know, so I think I'm going to need some more drives to really keep finding the nuances of what's working consistently better and consistently not. I think that's the thing with, you know, neural networks and the way this works is it isn't going to be the same every single time. But giving the car the tools to do better is part of it. Hey, we're getting closer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. FSDBeta 10.0.1 dropped today, 17 September. Have a great day, everybody.